Captain Matt Gray, thank you for having us in your office.
Oh, great pleasure, Pat.
So you've been in simulators and in aircraft for 40 years doing a range of flying. What technology have you seen that's come into the cockpit?
Aviation continues to evolve. Now, when I learned to fly in 1980, flight decks didn't look like this. What you're seeing now, this is called a glass flight deck, which is huge amounts of information. And then when I flew, back in my Air Force days, this amount of information wasn't available. So you've got enhancers in communication, navigation, energy management, a range of different technology, and aviation's been one of those industries that continues to evolve as aeroplanes become more capable. They become faster, more fuel efficient, but the information now presented to the pilot has to be able to keep up. So what you're seeing now is a very visually dense environment for a pilot to operate in. And if you consider a pilot acquires 80 to 90% of their information visually, there's a little bit of haptic feedback, a little bit of audio, but most of it comes in the form of visual acquisition via a pilot scan. So that's the difficulty, is scans have evolved over a period of time to take into account the amount of information that's being presented. And that's the big difference between 1980 and now. And this is a very typical flight deck. And even small training aeroplanes are starting to have glass flight decks. So the pilot scan, which is a core skill that a pilot has to have, now has to cope with this much information. So the scan that I was taught is now very different.
So Matt, you've been a great advocate of the use of eye tracking in a simulated training environment and in aircraft operationally. Why is it that you see eye tracking could add value in this space?
Well, as an instructor, I've been instructing pilots for many years. And one of the things we do as an instructor, we have to evaluate the effectiveness of their eye scan. And the way we do that is look at the instruments and see how the aeroplane's flying. So it's a very core skill that a pilot has to have, and it's a core skill that the instructor has to have. But I can't actually see it. I can only infer it by the performance of the aeroplane. So if a pilot has an ineffective scan, either on training or whatever they're doing, I have to guess, essentially, by my experience, on where they're looking, and then create a program to fix it. But I'm really making an educated guess. But if I had an eye tracker, I can see exactly where they're looking. Now that's going to give me a couple of benefits, that I can see exactly where they're looking, so I can fix the problem probably more quickly. And my hope would be that when you're training someone, particularly on differences like the primary flight display and the HUD where the scan is different, you can accelerate training because you know exactly where they're looking, and you can tailor their training to where they're looking. Now, my view is that a pilot will have an individual scan pattern, and I'm not supporting a prescriptive scan pattern. Everyone will probably be slightly different. So you can tailor your training to that individual and say, I suggest you might want to look here. And here it is, here's your eye tracking scan. That's what it looks like. And I think that'll be of great benefit in accelerating a trainee from the novice right to the end, to an expert. And that's what the great hope I have for eye tracking. But I don't think eye tracking will stop at training either.
How far do you think it could go for the use of eye trackers in this environment?
My own view is that I don't think eye tracking can be limited to flight training. I think it's got an application not only in flight training, but in safety, accident and incident analysis, particularly where you've got a pilot scan involved. What were they looking at? Why weren't they looking there? It can be used in safety analysis. I think it can be used, which it has been, in fatigue. I think there's the possibility of auditing. You could use it for that. So this is a piece of technology. This is one piece of technology that can be used in at least 5 scenarios, all based on that big piece of information that we've talked about, where a pilot looks and the importance of the scan. So this one piece of technology could completely revolutionise about 5 different areas of aviation. And I think personally that if you get, and I think this will happen, you'll get an eye tracker in every aeroplane and every simulator. That's going to have enormous benefit for your flight training to see if the pilot is doing in the aeroplane what they're doing in the simulator, which is one of the things that you want to have in a flight training system. So I think the future for eye tracking at the moment is unlimited, and it's going to revolutionise how we actually fly, train and examine safety data in aviation.
Thanks for letting us in your office this morning.
It's a great office, Pat.
It is.